Hey everyone, it's Marla. Welcome back to Twinstrology. I want to talk with you today about the weird and wild world of astrology once again. So, a friend of mine asked me if I would research the astrology of Q, and that sounded like a challenge, and I'm always up for a challenge, so I said sure. I've been working on this for the last few days, and I've been going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole. And that's why I'm here today. I want to just share a little clip of one of those rabbit holes that I found. And it has to do with 4-10-20, which of course is connected to Q. And there was a lot of talk about a storm coming, 3 days of darkness. I myself wrote a piece about the astrology of that week, and I did a video with my friends Debbie and Kimberly over at What on Earth. But some of you might be feeling like, I don't know, the time passed, nothing really happened, maybe you're feeling discouraged. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this video. To be honest, I debated for a while with myself, like, do I want to create this video? Because as I said in my last one, I don't feel we need to draw a lot of attention to the control forces on the planet, that their time is done, it's over. But on the other hand, when I talked to my guides about it, first of all, they said that it's okay to do some disclosure, because without disclosure, then we're not sharing information, and people can't find the information if nobody's sharing it. And the second thing was going back to, what I said about 4-10-20, and maybe some of you feeling disheartened because maybe you were expecting some major announcement to happen. And actually, one of the things that I hold back a little bit with Q is because within some people, not everyone, but within some people in that community, I get a sense that they're waiting for a savior, that they expect Q or they expect President Trump to come and just make everything better. But how I see this is that we have to make everything better. We are our own savior. We have to claim our sovereignty. We have to make the change. And then we have to create the change that we want to see in the world. But that's exactly what happened on 4-10-20. You all got together and you created the change that you wanted to see. So on that day, Microsoft, formerly owned and run by Bill Gates, he's recently stepped down, posted an ad that featured this artist, Marina Abramovich. And she is a performance artist. Her art is very dark. This picture of her that I have here, you can see she's wearing red, which correlates to the root chakra, and she's holding a bloody goat's head. This is one of her tamer pieces of art, and they contain a lot of occult symbolism. Now, let me just say that I hold a degree in art history. I'm by no means a shrinking violet when it comes to art. I don't feel that artists should be prevented from expressing their art however they want to, as long as they're not harming any person or creature. But this would not be the type of art that I would be interested in. And I think many of you feel that way. And yet the whole celebrity culture just flocks to her. Now, some of them, like Lady Gaga, is very into Marina and has worked with her and made videos about how great she is. Maybe you can see that because Gaga herself is on the fringe. But someone like Bill Gates, who seems very conservative, why is he pushing this artist with all this occult, I can't think of the word, symbology. It's very strange. And there's other people like him. Of course, Abramovich is also connected to Hillary Clinton's emails and Podesto and spirit cooking. I don't want to go into too much of what she does. Many of you already know about it, or you can Google her if you want to and get all the information that you need. But we're not going to rehash all of that. We're just going to say that her art is very interesting, and very interesting that all these people just love and support her so much. So I was looking at the astrology charts and I kept getting all these hits, and I want to share them with you. And there's so much that I can talk about here, but I'm going to try and keep it down to a few asteroids. I don't want this video to be too long. So here's the chart of the day for 10/20. And I spoke about how on that day, the North and South Node were going to be at 144. The North and South Node, for those of you that don't know, represent our karma. The South Node is our past life. The North Node represents this life. And we need to find balance, clearing out our karma, bringing in our skills and ability, and following our purpose. So 144 is an important number for those in the light worker community because it correlates with the 144,000 light workers that are here to shift the vibration of the earth. It's mentioned in Revelations. So that was a big indication that I mentioned that the light has won. But when we look at this day, asteroid Lucifer is conjunct the North Node. Now, don't get me wrong, the light has won. That's an interesting placement. What makes it even more interesting is asteroid Gates was squaring the North and South Node and Lucifer. And so that's telling us that there's some kind of karma was at play for him at this time. And judging by that asteroid, something not very positive. Also on this day, asteroid Karma was squaring asteroid Child. And I'm just going to point that out because I feel like that's going to come up when I pull up some other charts. Here's his chart, Gates' chart. And I'm going to just point out while I have this up because it might be harder to see with the synastry chart. But his North Node is conjunct his asteroid Child and asteroid Lie. Another interesting thing he has is asteroid Lucifer opposes Saros. Let me find his chart with 4/10/20 so we can see how it was being activated. So, as I said, he's got Lucifer opposed Saros in his natal chart, and on that day, asteroid Marina was conjunct Lucifer. And in a loose square with it, his moon was being exactly transited by Black Moon Lilith. Now, if we go back to old mythology, early Judaism, for example, we can find a lot of dark energy around Black Moon Lilith, that she is a demon and a succubus. That's not how I would read Lilith now. Yet, when I'm looking at this chart and some of the energies there, I would say that Lilith is activating those dark feminine energies in him. He's got some kind of dark connection to Marina Abramovich, which we're going to see in a minute. But also on this day, the asteroid White Rabbit was conjunct the Pluto-Jupiter conjunction. which was exact maybe like a day or two before. It was exact during that week. Pluto's a very slow-moving planet, so Pluto's been activating his asteroid White Rabbit for a while. And what I feel that's saying is it's guiding all of us to uncover the White Rabbit that's there in his chart. And I talked about Pluto Jupiter exposing the wealthy and the plutocracy. His Chiron was also being transited by Saturn, which was creating a limitation for him. Now, Chiron is the wounded healer, and Bill thinks he's like the world's healer. He gives all this money to the WHO, and he's trying to vaccinate everybody. But he's not a doctor. He has no right to tell us. So Saturn is bringing in this energy of limitation. America was a conjunct asteroid Truth, or I should say Truth was conjunct his America. At the same time, transiting America was transiting his North Node, asteroid Lie, and Child. So what that says to me is that America was saying, hey, we want the truth here, and we're not going to stop till we get the truth. Here's his chart with Abramovich, and one of the major things that we see here is that his South Node conjuncts her North Node and vice versa. They have a nodal opposition happening. This is an indicator of a soulmate. Someone has this in their chart. They have a long history of incarnating together over and over again. So these two people are some kind of soulmates. This is definitely not the first time that they've known each other. And look at some of the aspects. Her North Node also conjuncts his asteroid Marina, which is very close to his South Node. Her asteroid Lie is there, and on his side, his asteroid Lie is there. She has Lie on her North Node, and he has Lie on his North Node. If someone has Lie on their North Node, what I'm going to read from that is that this person isn't trustworthy. This person has a problem, a karmic problem with lying or with somehow being truthful. Of course, astrology is not a science. It's not going to hold up in court as evidence. But really, we need to scratch our head when we see connections like this. As I said, his asteroid's Child's there, and her Black Moon Lilith, well, their Black Moon Liliths are conjunct each other, and it conjuncts his Child. Now remember, Lilith in its higher energy can be an activation for the divine feminine and speaking our truth and clearing our shadow. But in its lower energy, it can be very dark indeed. Also, his asteroid Gates conjuncts her asteroid Child and her Sun. And in his chart, Gates opposes Marina, and in her chart, Gates opposes her Venus Jupiter. I don't know what their relationship is in this lifetime, but this certainly speaks again to some kind of soulmate relationship. Soulmates doesn't have to mean a romantic relationship, but it does mean people that have known each other before. Let's just look at her chart by itself for a moment because it's kind of interesting. Child conjunct the Sun, squaring Lucifer. We talked about that. Asteroid Saros, squaring the nodal axis, squaring her asteroid Lie, trining asteroid Gates. So Saros is an asteroid that I actually just kind of had plugged in, and I was looking at different charts. As I said, I'm investigating the astrology of Q. So even though I can't point out to some specific connection that he has to that ad and what happened on 4/10/20, the astrology charts are telling us that in some way, if he's not connected to the actual situation, he's very connected to these two people. So here's Donald Trump's chart with 4-10-20. Okay, so we talked about that. I just wanted to make sure I'm covering everything. So Donald Trump's chart. All right, now he's got this big conjunction here of planets in Cancer. And I talked about some of them in the video I did about his astrology and his connection to America. But this Soros is a new one that I discovered. He's got Soros at 14 and George at 15. Now that's his name, George Soros. Nemesis at 16 and Lucifer at 17. And on that day, 4-10-20, asteroid Marina was conjunct Saros exactly. And these other asteroids, I don't have them all in because I can only put so many asteroids in at once. This is also, Marina was also squaring his Chiron, and I'd spent a lot of time in my other reading talking about Chiron. An interesting thing that I'm going to mention here, I think I want to go back and do actually a part 2 reading of Trump's chart. But with this new discovery I made of having George and Saros conjunct and how they hit his chart, as I mentioned, Saros now, George Saros, squares Chiron, but it also squares in Aries where Trump has asteroid Russia and Mueller in a conjunction opposing his Chiron. So there is some talk about our friend George having a connection, kind of funding and working to defame President Trump and contributing money to have him convicted because Trump doesn't go with his agenda. Also on that day, White Rabbit was opposing America by transit. That was the day chart. And that is right on Trump's north and south node, his sun, and his moon. And making a square with Trump's child. So again, we get this imagery of follow the white rabbit. There's clues. There's clues if we want to see them. And transiting Saros was conjunct Trump's child on that day. We also have Uranus conjunct Gates and Karma conjunct Lie. And as well as in his natal chart, Marina opposes America and is being transited by Truth. So all three of those things would give the energy of exposing some kind of truth. Again, even though you didn't actually see the president talking about any of that, doesn't mean that there isn't stuff going on behind the scenes there. And then if we pull up the United States charts, this gets really interesting. We see the North Node and the Lucifer conjunction that was happening that day exactly on the United States gates. So we talked about the North Node being at 144. The asteroid Gates is at 144 in the US chart. So it was exact. And then, as I said, squaring, transiting Gates as well. You guys were activating this energy of wanting this man to be more truthful, to be transparent with his money and what his agenda is, what his intentions are. Now, the United States, similar to Trump, has all these planets in a conjunction here, or asteroids and planets. Gates, Venus, White Rabbit, Karma, and Jupiter were all close enough together to be hit by the North Node Lucifer. And of course, this didn't just happen on this day. It's been something that was building. That asteroid Marina conjunct the USA's Sun and Lie and squaring Saturn. And another asteroid that I don't have in the chart, but because I talked a moment ago about the energy that I mentioned about Trump's Chiron and Russia and Mueller and whether George Soros was behind it. Also in the USA chart, opposite where Trump has Soros is the USA's own asteroid Mueller. So there's lots of interesting implications with that still to be discovered. And again, Soros conjunct Soros on that day. There's no obvious connection, but the planets want to tell us that there's more to the story that we're not seeing. The Uranus was transiting the USA's Chiron. And also, we talked a moment ago about karma, and karma was hitting Trump's lie. In the USA's chart, Marina is there by square, and that's opposing, or was opposing, the transiting child chart. Asteroid Truth was also illuminating Pallas Athena, the moon, and Lucifer of the USA chart. Now, Pallas Athena is the goddess of liberty. She represents truth and liberty. Another indication that you were activating that energy. So I hope that you found that interesting. Lots of different aspects correlating there, giving us clues and synchronicities about what's going on, and indicating that, as I said, you initiated the change that you wanted to see. I think on that day, there was over 25,000 thumbs down on that video on YouTube and only around 600 thumbs up. There were so many comments that the comments had to be shut down. And then they finally pulled it. That was the American public letting their voice be heard, that they do not want all this occult, even satanic symbolism being used. And these are the kinds of things where we see this symbolism in plain sight all the time. It becomes so common in cultural references, especially in films and music, anything connected to Hollywood. Almost in a way, it's like we give our consent because we see it and we don't really do anything about it. But this was you guys giving a big no, not giving consent to this. And we don't want this stuff being in plain sight. There's that saying, hidden in plain sight. Many times they don't even hide this symbolism. Because most people think, and I was one of them for a long time, that this stuff couldn't possibly happen, that this kind of stuff couldn't possibly go on in the world. But everything will be coming into the light now. So watch for, if you're interested in more, watch for the video that I'm going to do on the astrology of Q. I'm going to present that on my friends Debbie and Kimberly have a YouTube channel called What on Earth, and I'm hoping to go on there maybe later on this week and talk about that, and hoping to do some other famous personages videos talking about these connections as well. So remember to stay positive, even though some of this that we talked about was kind of heavy. The best thing to do is send these people love. Don't hate on them. Don't attach fear to them. Send them love, that they find their way, that they do the right thing. And that time is up. Sending you all a lot of love, and I'll speak to you soon.